Hello, you're listening to WRKE 100.3 LPFM, Salem, streaming live online at WRKE.org, and on the TuneIn app, just search for WRKE. WRKE is here for you, offering a distinct listening choice in the Salem, Roanoke area and beyond. Hello, this is Anakin Heidrich of the Heidrich Motivational Hour, and this is... Sorry. I was a little nervous.
Oh, no, you're great. It's good to be here.
So, what I wanted to do, what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, I mean, I will just say that Anakin and I, we had a really, really great conversation. I think it was during the FOTQ in the fall, not too long ago. And we talked a lot about your experience with reading Les's Brown book. I cannot remember the title. What was the title of it again?
It's his first book from 1992. It's called Live Your Dreams.
Live Your Dreams, yes. And we had a really, really good conversation about how that impacted you and how it really changed your life. And so, but you gave me an update about meeting him, and I had no idea that you had done that. So I want you to tell me a little bit about that, like how you made that happen.
So, I don't know, one day I just kept, one day I decided to call their number. I was just like, hey, you know what do I have to lose? Absolutely nothing. And I called for several nights, actually, just providing my name, my information, and saying I'd be interested in talking to him, or like going to one of his conventions, or potentially having him on this show, because he's the one who inspired this show. It's kind of like I owe him a debt a little bit. And I figured what better way to carry his legacy forward than going into doing a radio show here and spreading a message like this to the college students here, who I think would need this message now more than ever. So when I had reached him, or when I didn't get a hold of him, it was his agent, of course, that's just how it all works. They offered me $25 tickets. It was a very heavy discount from the normal $500 they would usually pay. Because I tried so hard to get a hold of him. They're like, we're gonna give this to you for $25 or so. And so I was just like, yep, count me in. It felt like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I felt when I saw this message, when I came back home from the hospital, oh God. It felt like a miracle. I didn't expect anyone to actually reach me back, and there his agent is, and there I am. I got to reach him in Atlanta, Georgia on February 1st. It's a date that I will never forget. I got to meet him. I got to meet several other speakers like Sean Huber, Lorenzo Ray Phillips, all really genuine, down-to-earth people. I mean, just to see him speak in the flesh down there in Atlanta, Georgia was really, really, really something. I mean, I could not stop shaking the whole time. I was so excited.
How'd you get down to Atlanta?
My parents drove me.
Nice.
Me going down, seeing him was the only reason we made the trip. Yeah. My mom did all of that for me.
Oh, wow.
She is great. She is absolutely great. If you're listening to this, Mom, driving home from work, I love you.
What was the biggest takeaway that you took from February 1st?
What I would say is, had I not taken that opportunity, I would have not known the people that I know, and I would have not made the connections, or I would have not come this far in my show. I mean, what I've taken from that is something to look back on, a feeling to recapture when you get knocked down, because we all need something we can, some moment in our lives we can lean on, or some feeling of positivity when the going gets rough. And I'm happy to say that was a moment, being able to be there and be able to shake his hand and see him smile and just be the down-to-earth guy he says he is. If you want to say hi, he'll let you say hi. You don't need to be this VIP guy. You can shake his hand. He's not, he's not going to buy you. He's actually a really, really nice guy. And because, he's known struggle. So he understands where we've been, and I've always felt like I had related to him because he had struggled with mental problems in school, from what I know. I'm not really necessarily able to say the word, but that's just how it was back in the day, back in the 50s and 60s, especially for his time. And being an African American at that time did not make it any easier either, growing up during like the Jim Crow time. So in a way, I felt with his, like the way he had struggled in school and was told he wouldn't have amounted to much, and how he was like labeled as a failure, I felt like I had related to that because I kind of faced those same problems in elementary school because my neurodivergent mind didn't fit neatly in the cookie cutter files.
Interesting. Yeah, so you saw a lot of yourself in Les.
Yeah, pretty much. He was like another father figure I could listen to for advice, like very, very, very wise. I mean, I don't know if you remember seeing the book itself. Yeah. It was sticky noted.
Everywhere. How many times have you read the book?
5 times running now in a year.
Wow. And every time do you get something new out of the book?
Oh, of course. It wasn't until the 4th time through that I actually started having the idea of sticky noting. Yeah. And then I just started taking that and applying that to my textbooks. I was like, if I can remember the information this well, sticky noting a motivational book, I could do that and apply it to my textbooks in college, and it's gone a long way.
There you go.
So even if it took nothing from that book, which I did take something, I could still take that strategy over. It still helped somehow.
Yeah. Gotcha. So how has what you have learned from Les Brown, how have you applied it to, being here at Roanoke College?
Well, that's actually a really good question. I did not think that far ahead. Okay. So how has Les Brown, like his words, influenced what I do in college? Mm-hmm. Well, he's kind of a guy where there's no excuses, and one of the things he always said is, if you try to run from an opportunity, you will always be running. If you try to say you're too scared, you will always be running. If there's one thing I ever learned, it was his acronym, FEAR, or false expectations appearing real. Our fear is just what we almost like what we create in our minds. Like there's certain, like he says, certain fear is healthy. And yes, you can acknowledge it as emotion, even as a fact, but not as something to immobilize you. That was like something famous he said. So I kind of applied that to my life, and I kind of applied that to my time here at the college. Like, fear, of exams and tests and classes. I would, like, my emotional state of mind would be in fear of, going to a certain class just because I know I have this exam going on today, and I have that test fright.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he said, what's the worst it's going to do? Kill you? No. He says, guess what? You'll make it through, and if not, at least you didn't die.
That's right.
So I took that and applied that to my life. And applied that to my classes. I was like, I'm not going to die. I'm still going to come out alive, no matter what happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing thing to look at. I mean, of course, in college, but just overall, it's really not going to kill you. Troubles, hardships, it can be frustrating, but it's not going to kill you.
So actually, what you said reminded me of something. It's like it's all that kind of part of that pain we all face. Like, we all have a story, but it's up to us to let that. It's not something he said, but I've heard someone else say. He said, you can either let your story, like your pain, become your your success, or you can let it become your tombstone. It's all solely based off choice. I see all these examples of like twin brothers or twin sisters raised from like the same, parent. One winds up actually making something of himself, and then the other one winds up becoming, intoxicated and throws his life away and like runs with the wrong crowd. It's all based off choice. It's like you can't blame. If you are blaming your parents for something they've done, you kind of can't keep blaming them because their parents messed them up. It's up to you to stop a generational cycle. You are kind of responsible for your own choices in that case. There comes a point where something he said in his book. It was by a philosopher, and he says something about like the parents are the bow and the children are the arrows, and the arrows decide where to go once the bow launches.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah. I mean, I can get behind that. And I think, I have a brother. We're not twins, but I have a brother, and we definitely chose different paths. I think we defined success very differently. I defined success very academically, and my brother defined success very creatively, and so he is more on the creative side with art and music. I decided to do more of what I think my parents deemed to be successful, and that was the academics part. But my brother found success doing something very different than what we were raised to do, but he still found success in it. So it's interesting how you can be raised in the same home and choose different paths. But if they ultimately lead to what I define as success or my brother defines as success, I think it's a win.
Exactly, beautifully. Honestly, I feel like as long as you're getting up every day and you're working towards something, I think that's success in and of itself. It's very brave. My mom always said, in a world that's not, meant to accommodate someone like me who's, neurodivergent, and among many others in this world, she says you're very brave for constantly going out there every day. And honestly, I don't think it just would apply to people like me. I think it applies to everybody. The world out there, it's cruel. It's a hard place. It'll beat you down. Yeah. So honestly, everybody going out there, I tip my hat to you.
Yeah, no, man. Especially now, and for some people, life can feel really frustrating. It can feel really daunting. It can feel scary, right? But making those intentional choices, because I think it's a choice, right? It's a choice to show up every day, like you were saying. And it takes a lot of courage to, in the face of hard things, in the face of, I can say adversity, to continue to show up. I applaud people that do that as well.
Exactly, and actually, here's the other thing. I just came to mind on that book was something. It was like my safety net too, per se. Something I could constantly read. Like when I was stuck in the hospital, that book was something I could constantly read and something I constantly count on. It was like the one thing that was keeping me, giving me some sort of hope while I was basically trapped physically and mentally in my mind. That book gave me some sort of outlet, and I actually got the joy of sharing it with many other patients. And what I've learned from both of my experiences in those hospitals is everybody, we all have these problems, and sometimes we're just not given the proper tools to face our problems, and it's kind of how we wind up there. I don't really necessarily want to say how. It's not something I feel too comfortable sharing right now. Yeah. But it's kind of the same idea. We're all not given the tools, and I didn't use the tools that I was being given to handle my problems effectively, and it kind of went into a downward spiral, and I kind of wound up there. But what I've learned is they're all kind of dealing with their similar problems and dealing with their similar tragedies. I mean, just like some of the stories, I'm not going to tell them because, I want to respect their privacy, but just what I've heard, shows me, I think, I've heard stories of people who've survived, so much worse than I have, or survived so much more than others have. Not that it's competition, but it's like thinking that they're still standing right there. That if they can survive through something that as traumatic as what they have went through, then who says any of us couldn't here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's real. And I think it's one thing one thing that you said about tools, right? I feel like overall, especially since we're here at a college, education has been designed to be very cookie cutter, right?
Right.
You go through kindergarten, first grade, second grade, right? And oftentimes, and what I think research is showing now is that education and how people learn is just not linear, right? And so we have people that perceive the world differently. We have people who are neurodivergent. We have people who learn differently. We have, not people who come from different countries to learn. And so education has never been linear. I think we're still learning to unpack tools and how we can actually support, young people and students who learn very differently. So I just wanted to touch on that point, and that makes a lot of sense. But as you were talking about, the people that you heard their stories, you just never know. I think that's why kindness is so important, because you just never know what people are going through. And oftentimes people who have endured trauma have the ability to kind of mask a bit, and so they can walk through life appearing happy or overly kind or whatever, and people just assume they have it all together. But that's why I just truly believe that kindness is important, because you just never know what someone is going through. And so whether you're just saying hello or smiling or opening the door of someone's,
right,
just those small gestures, you just never know what people are going through, and small acts of kindness are really impactful.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you said that, because you brought me to another point.
Okay.
I kind of like what you said about like the masking and the smiling. Like that's something I've had a habit of doing before, and even now I still have that problem. When I mask, I'm usually tend to kind of be a giggle box.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to find something funny. It's almost like a laugh to keep from crying type of dealio. And it kind of makes me think of like all these comedians that I know who have suffered from mental illness, and if I had not known there was a mental illness they were suffering from, and they were always constantly smiling, I would have always thought they were just this chuckly, clowny person. Like I think of, for example, like Robin Williams with just his sense of humor. I never knew that at all especially until after he had passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was wild, because I think
it shook the world.
Yeah, because I never would have expected. I remember watching Robin Williams. I remember going to Blockbuster. You know what Blockbuster is?
Oh yeah, I'm so familiar. I've actually been to a few very, very young.
Yeah. So me growing up, back in the day, we would every Friday, if we had me and my brother had done well at school, we could go to Blockbuster. We'd get one movie, and then we'd go to Krispy Kreme donuts. That was just like order pizza. That was like our Friday thing. And I remember always wanting to see Flubber.
Yes, I've seen it. It's goofy.
I watched Flubber over and over. I watched Bicentennial Man over and over.
I have yet to see that one.
It's a good one. It's a little, it's a robot who catches, has the ability to feel. It's very kind of tracks what it
says futuristic.
Yeah. And so Bicentennial Man, Mrs. Doubtfire, and just
God,
you know what I mean? Classics, Robin Williams classics.
I have like both the tape and the DVD to Miss Doubtfire, because oh god, it's just so goofy. I hadn't seen that in like 4 years, and when I finally watched that, I was like, the only thing I regret was not watching it more.
Yeah, it's a classic, man. He's the original voice of Genie in Aladdin.
Oh dear.
So it was to know that.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, it's your show, man. To know that the voice behind that, the man behind that, was actually like suffering silently is I think it shook a lot of people and made people realize that you just have to be very careful with people and how you treat people. Again, you just never know.
I'm not saying what happened to him was necessarily right, but I think everything happens for a reason. I don't believe there's coincidence. Like, if that hadn't happened to him when he had passed, like what he wasn't going through, and it finally came where all the facts were revealed after he'd passed, honestly, I don't think we'd have much mental health awareness as we do now.
I agree.
Because what he was doing was he was cloning that for all those years, and just hiding behind success. And when I start looking back at his roles, like posthumously, I can see a little bit of what do you want to say, his struggle, his like mental struggle. I could see like in his character a little, in his movies a little bit. I can understand like this. For example, my favorite role he ever played, it's a serious role. He played a therapist in Good Will Hunting.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies of all time, one of my top 10.
Yeah.
And probably the best role I think he ever did, like dramatically, of course. I think there's several times like where he was giving like monologues, and he would be at the park bench in Boston. I've been there, by the way. Oh, nice. Really happy when I found out that was him.
Nice.
Anyways, right there, I think there was obviously a little bit of himself in that picture. Just the way how it gets so serious and it becomes so true, because I mean, some of that film does revolve around the idea of trauma and mental health, and a little bit of mental health and a little bit of abuse. Like I've heard recently, Ben Affleck had suffered from depression, and he was one. I can't say it's true or not, but this is what I hear, so I can't confirm nor deny. But he helped write this script with Matt Damon, and I'm just sitting here thinking, wow, God. The fact that like Robin Williams could perform a monologue like that in one take shows just how it was based. That monologue felt just like him. I didn't even see his character. I just saw him.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, he did another really interesting film. I cannot remember the name of it.
What was it about?
He was I believe it was something regarding his son, but Robin Williams' character developed photos, maybe like at a CBS type.
Oh, you're talking 1 Hour Photo?
Yeah.
That's my second favorite. Yeah.
Wasn't that really good?
I thought it was brilliant. It almost gave me like Hitchcockian level.
Exactly. Yes.
It's just.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot he did comedy. He did that so well.
Right. It was haunting. And so to go from like all I know Robin Williams as is Flubber and Mrs. Doubtfire, to see him in this role,
quite a turn.
I know, but I think it was probably easier for him because that was probably maybe he was able to take off the mask a little bit and actually kind of lean into some of those harder things, and so because exactly, like, you got to think, in spite of all the creepy stuff he was doing in the film, if that was just a part of his character, I still think there was like a part of him there, like that that sad, lonely man. He's just sitting there in his apartment watching the TV, and you see the pictures of the family he's kind of after, or he's kind of interested in, but like the way you just see him sitting there alone and basically almost depressed and like void of any emotion whatsoever. It almost feels like I saw a little bit of him, or like especially at the end of the film when he sees when you find out what this is a spoiler. Yeah. So brace yourself if you haven't seen this. You see the pictures of the sink and the faucet, and you realize it's not what you were expecting. The pictures you were expecting he would have when he was getting interrogated, and that like closing speech, or that closing little monologue, I feel like he also gave a little bit of himself there, a little bit of his a little bit of the pressure he dealt with, the emotional pain. I felt like some of these roles were honestly opportunities to let off some of that pressure in a socially acceptable way. Yeah, and in a way that you can kind of cover it and say it's just art, right? But I think, what's the phrase? Art imitates life. Is that what they say, or something like that? I think so. I can't say who it was. Yeah, but I think that's real. That's real. You think about Anthony Bourdain, you think about Heath Ledger, like people who were really creative, and they struggle just like anyone else. Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree totally. And then like Tennessee, I know like the playwright Tennessee Williams, he himself suffered from depression, and if I'm not mistaken, my mom told me he even had a name for his. I can't remember what it was. She just told me he had a name. I never looked into it. Like I was once asking my mom, like, what are some authors for me that would be similar to me, kind of, who like dealt with the same mental illness. And my mom said, I remember mom saying like Tennessee Williams was one of them. I can't remember the others. It's been so long. I can obviously remember that one off the top of my head. No, but God, I don't know. That brings me to another point. You said something earlier too about like the schools and the cookie cutter files. Kind of like you're not fitting neatly in the cookie cutter files. I think it's honestly more important ever, and I see it happening here already at the college. Like, training teachers, training professors, and training authority figures to kind of teach students in more than one way. It's not one size fits all. I see this cartoon. It's a little bit of satire, but there's also a lot of truth to it. It's a tree. This human says, y'all gotta climb this tree or you fail, and what you got here is a fish in a bowl
Definitely not going to be able to climb that. You got an elephant. The elephant's going to break the tree.
Yeah.
You got the monkey. Of course, the monkey, it's going to be an easy one. But it's ridiculous on purpose. It's satirical on purpose. Kind of show, like, each animal represents like a different state of mind or a different way of learning. Sometimes you can't force somebody to think a different way. That's just what they were born with. And honestly, I like people who think in a different way, because if we all thought the same and said the same and all agreed on the same, it'd be a pretty boring world.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think I was exposed to this. For my life in higher education, I taught 8th grade in Boston. Actually, I lived there for 3 years. One of my favorite cities, and I learned very quickly how interesting the educational system is, and how, again, it plays into this very structured, everyone learns the same way. But the school that I was able to work at really diversified their learning. They were really intentional about teaching in different ways. It takes a lot more work for the teacher, right? Like, to explain a lesson one way and then make sure you explain the lesson another way. It takes work, but if you're passionate about the work, and you want all students to learn, then you do what you have to do. And so I think that's when I learned the importance of classroom instruction being differentiated, I think is the word we would use. So yeah, I've seen it firsthand and seen the impacts of it. So I feel like now it's becoming more common. I'm hoping. I haven't been in K-12 for a while, but I feel like now it's becoming, we have more in school. We have more, people working on IEPs, and more, individuals working with accommodations. And so I think we're coming around. Still always more work to do, right? Because now not only do we have, need to teach differently, but now we have students who went through COVID, right? And what did that do to their education and their learning? So
it stalled it.
You know what I mean? And so now it's like learning again. How do we now ensure that those students who went through COVID and the pandemic are still learning what they need to learn and learning it in the right way?
Exactly, and you kind of had me thinking about that. I found out, like, since COVID and since I kind of stalled everything, like, we have hit like the lowest test scores in history, like that big problem. And then the other problem, of course, I think we all are aware. This is the problem, like, with the AI abuse, basically misusing. I personally, this is my personal opinion, I just don't agree with it, because it uses up the our water, and it pollutes our water.
Okay, like the environmental.
Yeah, I'd rather find the information myself than find it through instant search and lose hundreds of gallons of water just from like one search, if that's what I'm remembering. But that's not what I wanted to get to. I was kind of went off on a tangent. So this is where I was getting to. The essays, it's something I never forget. Someone told me essays are basically like a way of communicating with other students, or like basically having an intellectual conversation. It's intellectual dialogue with other students on a topic to see like what other people can learn. Your essay is meant to be, it's not meant to be a punishment or a chore. It's meant to be your opportunity to kind of speak your opinion professionally, or give a new perspective that nobody ever thought of. And I feel like the way students, that I've heard in high school, in my high school years at Patrick Henry, I've known some students that have like misused AI and done that type of stuff, or done it like with their type of tests, and then just like, why don't you just go through the effort and learn it yourself? What is the point of going to class if you're just not going to take anything from it? And then not even that, using a robot to write your essay defeats the purpose of it being intellectual dialogue. There's nothing, it's not authentic anymore. The conversation doesn't feel real, because it's meant to be a conversation between other humans, not between humans and robots. A robot that already takes information offline and pretty much just summarizes it in his own words. It doesn't bring anything new.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah, I definitely get that. I mean, I think with any new, right, like, I remember when the internet, I'm dating myself when the internet came out, everyone was like, oh, this is going to destroy, the way people learn. And,
oh, yeah.
Because I remember, I think I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember just like strictly using dictionaries, like having to get like A through Z dictionaries and encyclopedias and all of that, right? And so I was on the tail end of that growing up, but when the internet came, I think it's just with anything. And so I think AI is just going to have we're just going to have to learn how to use it. What's the word? Not efficiently, but I can't think of the word right now. But use it wisely.
Right.
But I think it can be a very useful tool. But
don't let it take over your thinking.
Of course. We always want to be free thinkers, and I think that's the joy of just humanity is the diversity of thought, and and I've started to see at least like the AI videos of where like people are just creating entire movies, right? Just from an idea. And so I think that's interesting. But then I also get nervous about like sometimes I think, do I want to put my idea in AI? Because like, what if someone researches the same thing that I'm thinking, and then AI gives them my idea, and they actually take my idea and do something really great with it? But I'm like, I thought of that, But I think we're still learning ethically, using AI ethically. That's what I want to say. So I think we'll get there.
Exactly. You kind of got to be careful have to be careful with what you put in there, because once you put it in there, it's like all in this big database, and you are just you there's an assumption of risk basically. I've had to think about that myself. It's like, wait, I don't want to put that up. Like I'm thinking like certain ideas for like films I have, and it's like I would hate to accidentally put this really original idea in there and then have someone else create the work that I wanted to make.
I know.
And it's like you can't sue them because you can't prove you can't necessarily prove it was you. It's all in one big database, and like what? It was all in the database. I didn't know you wrote it.
Yeah. I never knew how profitable data was. Like my wife works and she does like a lot of data work, and people pay millions upon millions of dollars for data, and so it's like I never knew. In my mind, it's just like ideas and numbers all going into some place that is, I guess taking water and taking energy and all of that. But people are like paying millions of dollars for like, you just sign up you put your name and your email address and your number for like some random thing. Like people can sell that for millions of dollars. It blows my mind.
Goodness. Oh my.
Yeah. There's always something to it, right? It's not just like, they're doing it to, I don't know, actually sell you something, but it's America.
Sorry.
No, are you good?
Oh, okay. I wanted to ask, what kind of led you to taking this new job here on campus?
Yeah. So, so it is a new role. I serve as the assistant. Being an assistant dean of students is not a new role, but the role specifically focused on retention. Is new. And so what led me was, really I had been doing this work before at a previous institution. I see the value in making sure that students who come to Roanoke College specifically feel a sense of value, feel that they are seen and that they belong, but also that they want to stay here all 4 years, right? And so what can I do, my boss, Dean Perkins, what can the Student Success Division do to ensure that every student here is happy? And what I do understand is that Roanoke College may not be for everyone, but for people who choose to come here, how can we make this place a place that they want to stay? So what I was interested in the role because it was an opportunity to build something and build something to keep students here. So that's what I was interested in. And plus I work with a really great team of people who are really invested in all the students here. So that's why I decided to come.
Also, I don't think I asked this, but what was like your official title, like your role here?
Yeah, Assistant Dean of Students for Student Success Strategies. It's a long one.
Oh no, you're fine.
It is a long one, and I think before it was Assistant Dean of Students for retention initiatives, but I know, right? So we decided to change it to focus more on student success. But that is what I'm here to do, right? Is to ensure that students feel successful, not just academically, but holistically that they feel a sense of student success. I mean, yeah, that they feel successful.
Okay, beautiful. And kind of want to ask, like, what was your college experience like?
That's a good question. Well, I was the first generation college student, so I was the first one in my family to go to college.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, I went to the University of Toledo in Ohio. Go Rockets. And it was interesting, man. I think I learned a lot. I originally went in as a pre-med student. Clearly, that did not work out. But I think I went in pre-med because I assumed doctor or lawyer. That's what success is. And I learned very quickly that success, again, what we talked about earlier, success is what you make it. And so switched my major to communication studies and thought I was going to move to LA and become like some radio host like you. Again, that didn't work out, and that's okay. But my junior year of college, I joined a frat. I really enjoyed my college years, still have amazing friends to this day. We try to get together pretty often. But my junior year, I realized that I really liked education. I come from a family of educators, and so it was too late to switch my major, so I just decided to work in education after I graduated. But my college experience, it was good, man. Some things I did really right, and some things I did really wrong. But I had a really good group of people to kind of fail forward among.
Right.
And that was really helpful.
Oh, yeah, and exactly. And, like, that's absolutely love that. Like, I have a group of people to fall back on. It's like you can have people, what do you want to say? How can I put this? It makes sense. A little bit of a mouthful. You have people that you can count on when you need them, and you are someone they can count on when they need you. You be there for them when they need you, and they be there for you when you need them. So that's how I kind of felt about like the accommodations here. For example, we were talking about that, like how we're taking new roles to diversify for different types of learning and different types of thinking. I kept thinking to myself, if I did not have the access to these accommodations and access to this kind of help, I don't think it's cheating. I think it's leveling the playing field per se. It gives all students equal opportunity.
Absolutely equitable.
I wouldn't be here, honestly. I don't think I'd be here right now if I didn't have those opportunities, and I didn't have such nice people in this program like Dustin Persinger or like Sandy McGee or like Colleen Quigley.
Also great. Just phenomenal. It's phenomenal people. And you can tell Dustin and Dee McGee and Colleen, they really care, man. They really, really care. They really care about students. They are professionals to the highest degree, and they're just really great people. I work with all of them in very different ways, specifically on a particular team within student success, but they're absolutely great. And I'm glad that students see that greatness as well, and that they're trusted. Students trust them as well.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's like I know when I have a problem, I know exactly. I know exactly who I can text or who I can email instantly. It's almost like the friends I've known for years, like for my job, we still text to this day. Like just like how there's someone I can text, talk to. These people are someone I can talk to when I know I am having problems, especially when like last semester especially, I was dealing with a lot of physical sickness from just from internal problems and like a stomach ulcer. Like I've had really bad experience where I was in so much physical abdominal pain because turns out my stomach lining almost ripped open.
Oh, man.
I feel lucky to be alive. I feel very, very blessed. And sorry.
Yeah, I mean, how did you? I was about to say, how did you find that out? But obviously, you went to the hospital.
Well, I found out through my endoscopy, and then after the endoscopy, I wound up getting sicker. Something about the procedure just made things worse, and it made it hard for me to get out of bed. And it's like, even after, like, just to have the opportunities, because I was sitting here thinking, this was November, semester ends in December, and I still had all these exams, all these papers to think about, and like this 40-page script and screenwriting I needed to write. And I was like, and then being sickness, like, is isolation, then isolation isn't good for your mental health. And it's like, I've already had like these problems with depression before, and they just became worse and worse. And I wound up sleeping in one day by accident, totally meaning to go to class, and I realized I completely missed a counseling appointment. It was the first appointment I ever missed, and I was like, oh no, I didn't even like realize I had it, because like I was just so numb and kind of tunnel vision on the problem. When I finally explained these problems to like the counselor and McGee, and I finally like spoke to Dustin, I was really, really grateful to, it wasn't like I was being treated like I was special or anything, or like I was like above everyone else, but to like be treated with some grace and some understanding, like to have been given the opportunity to get like these extensions on all this work, even beyond, like just even the professors too, to be kind enough and be willing, and they're all great professors, love them all, honestly, just to to have that type of patience with me throughout the time I was struggling. Have the right professors, have the right authority figures by your side during times like that, especially when they start texting or emailing you out of nowhere, checking up on you, instead of it always feeling like you're the only one who has to ask them for help. Sometimes they will just email you and ask you for anything. And I was kind of grateful for that, because like I said, without them, especially during that time, I don't think I would be sitting in this chair right now. Especially because mentally, and not just that, but because without the accommodations and the help they've provided me through that dark, stormy period, I would have probably not have been in college right now.
Wow. Well, yeah, shout out to that team of people, and shout out to you, man, for you still being here and showing up. But yeah, and to anyone who may be listening who is, feels like they're going through a really tough time, you have resources, you have people here who really care, and people who want to, get you back on track and help you. It's just, I know what it feels like to not want to ask for help because you don't want to feel like you're a burden, or I know what it feels like to feel like maybe I can just handle it on my own, or like just gotta get to the end of the semester.
The hyper-independence.
Get to spring break, right? And oftentimes it just keeps building, and so it's ask for help. That's what people are here for, and so you're not a burden. You're not doing too much, but if you need help, you have the resources.
Oh yeah, and like it's kind of like what you said. Number one, I don't believe you're ever really truly alone. Number two, Les Brown said something about ask for help not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong. That my friend Stephanie, she once texted me and said, "There is no shame in wanting to fight a good fight, bud."
Yeah,
there is absolutely no shame. I'll never forget it. No shame in wanting to fight a good fight. And honestly, I think some of this, I speak from experience, I think some of the habits we adapt, like especially growing up as adults, where we suppress our emotions, and we have that sense of like that hyper independence, or that what you call like it could be called toxic independence, where we feel like we can't necessarily depend on somebody else, and the biggest tragedies hit our life, and we're just expected to be like all right. I mean, I think all that kind of comes from like a sense of trauma, or like comes from like some traumatic experience, especially just growing up in general, if you weren't given those proper tools. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I didn't have those tools, especially during like that time in November. Like, I lost basically all rational thought. When you get to a point where you're so emotionally numb and you just feel like there is like no purpose to basically keep fighting or keep staying alive, what I've learned from my experience is that you lose all sense of rational thought, and you forget absolutely everything that was worth fighting for. For me, I lost all sense of rational thought. Just that pessimistic mindset plagued me, and especially like when it was a time when our cat passed away, our family cat passed away. that really hit me hard. It wasn't my cat, it was my mom's cat. But still, that cat traveled with us across the country for about 6 cross-country trips just to go from like apartment to apartment with us. Stood by our side, and I still miss her to this day.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have her in a box, a little bit of a box. I always make jokes because she was kind of a large cat, yeah. to put it kindly. Yeah. I always make jokes like, how could someone as chunky as her fit into such a small little box? Like, just trying to make some humor out of the situation, because sometimes you need to laugh through your tears.
That's right. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And yeah, man, your perseverance is really key. And I know what it feels like to not have those tools. I grew up where I maybe saw my dad cry once, and I think it was by accident. And now he cries all the time. So, but I thought that independence was strength. I thought that not asking for help was strength. I thought that suffering in silence was strength, and it's really not. It's really not, because you're only harming yourself and
just prolonging.
Yeah, and you're not giving your full self to the people around you. And so, once I got married and I had a daughter, I was like, I have to be a better person, not just for me anymore, but for them. And so when I started going to counseling and started really understanding why I think the way I think and why I view the world the way I view the world, and it was so eye-opening, and to get and to know that, like, people think like this, but there's a way to kind of reverse, kind of the way your brain processes things, and that's been really helpful.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I like what you were talking about, and just like the idea of just keep fighting the good fight. There's a saying I like that, God helps those who help themselves, and even I myself had to kind of learn to help myself in certain cases. Like, for example, when I first came here, when I was really going through another like one of those depressive periods, it's just I didn't choose it. Nobody chooses that. But even I myself knew going in to college, I need to reach out for help. I need to see if there's counseling services. And all it took was me simply asking somebody, hey, is there counseling here? And now, because of that ability, I don't think without it I'd be here, honestly, sitting in this room with my heart beating. If I didn't have just the counseling services that we have here. Honestly, if there's some university or some college out there that has not employed any of this, any like counseling services or accommodations, I highly suggest you do, because it is the key to unlocking all your students' potential. Yeah, and it's wellness, right? It's maintenance. Exactly. It's caring for the student holistically, not just academics, right? Because you assume college, everything is academics. You got to get good grades. You got to do X. You got to get the internship. You got to graduate on time. And sure, if you want to check all those boxes, check them. Granted. But at what cost? Is it the cost of your mental health? Is it the cost of your physical health? Right? So, I know people here, Roanoke College is really committed to caring for the student holistically, not just, how you can perform academically. They say, you made me think of something about that. They say, you talk about how like we spend all this time looking at academics and like learning facts and figures and lectures, and it's like I feel like if we spent just as much time as exploring like the student themselves, then the student can also flourish, because it's like, why are you doing what you're doing if you don't even know yourself? Yeah. If you know yourself, you would know what you want to do and why you're doing it. And that's the other thing too. Your why has to be bigger than just yourself. Like, what are you doing it for? Are you doing it for your family? Are you trying to make a change to society for the better? Are you trying to be an activist for something beyond yourself? What I learned is when you're doing something that has a purpose beyond just serving your own personal interests, you're less likely to throw in the towel. Yeah. Especially when there's always feels like there's a sense of urgency too. Yeah. When you understand there's like a sense of urgency and it's like there's no time to wait, you are less likely to quit, especially when it's for the betterment of society. Mm-hmm.
That's good. Yeah, I have a friend who does some really good work and has a really dope nonprofit, and she always says, I want to die empty. Meaning, I don't want my ideas, I don't want the potential that I had on me to like still be in me when I leave this earth. I want to pour everything out. I want to like the ideas, the all the greatness that's in me. I want it to be left in the world, not
Love that.
And so I always think about that. I want to die empty. I want any idea, anything, any potential that is in me. I want the world to have it. I don't want to hold on to it. So.
I love that. It's like kind of that idea of, even at the time when it feels like there is no evidence, believe there is more for you. Mm-hmm. There were many times where, especially when I was really struggling with that mental mind, there's just the way that the chemicals work in your brain. I mean, I had to keep sitting there thinking, this can't be it for me. There has to be so much more. Yeah. And I'm so happy to say that there is. Yeah. And kind of like what you were saying earlier about like using your gifts. Like, I love that. Les Brown has this idea where he's like, I want life to use me up.
Yes.
I want everything tapped in. I want to die and used up. I want all of my potential out there. They say he wrote in that book about some lecture he heard from a professor who said that the richest places in the world isn't the gold mines or the palaces, it's the cemeteries, because that's where all the dreams and all the potential died with people who never used their gifts.
Wow, that's deep. And I think that's a huge fear of mine.
Changes your thinking.
Yeah, it really does. It is a huge fear of mine. I remember going back and forth about like writing a book that I wanted to write.
Do it.
I did it.
Oh, beautiful.
I did. Yeah, I did. It was a children's book, and I wrote it, man, and I got it out. It was just one of those things that felt like, okay, like it was in me, and then I kept going back and forth. Like, what if it doesn't do well? Or like, what if it costs too much money? And that didn't matter. It was something that I needed to get out, and it felt so much better to release it. So like if you have that, if you feel that like gnawing at you, I know like if you wake up thinking about it, if you go to sleep thinking about it, it's something that the world needs to have, and
right.
And you got to get it out.
That's kind of how I feel about the 2 films I'm working on. I don't want to say anything on here, of course, because it's like I don't want to give my ideas away, but I spent a lot of time thinking, and there's a saying I think I developed for the filmmaking world. 99% of your time, when you think about like the runtime of your film and then the amount of time you spend, 99.9% of your time working on a film will always be pre-production, always be brainstorming. It's what it seems like when you put it in the grand scheme of things. If you put it across 24-hour days, it's like if you're thinking about this idea for years and years and years, and then just to build like an hour and a half or a 2-hour film, that's like 99.9% of the time is brainstorming. There really is. Yeah. It's kind of like writing, how most of it's brainstorming, and sometimes you have to start in the middle. But you had me thinking, especially regarding my 2 films, like I want to create a film talking about like basically the how the world has been making people emotionally numb. This was kind of the idea of the film. Like I've noticed that there's kind of like a mental health epidemic almost rising. I'm not expecting everybody to agree with me when I say that, and obviously I have my reasons for thinking this, and I drop some of my own experiences. I feel like this is a film what I'm working on is a film humanity really needs. And then like another one I'm working on is like a biopic off this singer I really, really love, one of my favorite singers, and I don't want it to be like a regular biopic formula. What I want to do with my films is provide something for humanity that we truly, truly do need, and kind of set new standards that others would be measured by in the future. And I've always made this proclamation to myself that I will not die until my films are made.
There you go. What interests you about films? Have you always been into films?
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, I've always been into films. I've always watched films. I feel like there's no better way to get a message across, especially artistically, Like, oh man, like the movie that made me say, or I'm going to rephrase that. 2 movies, okay. I watched them both on the same day. That made me say, this is what I want to do with my life. Okay. This makes me want to do film were The Green Mile and The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh wow!
The Shawshank Redemption is my number 1 favorite movie.
Oh, that's a classic, dude. Okay. So you're like, yeah, okay, you're in there. This is not like a superficial thing. That's real. Shawshank Redemption is, that's a heavy one. Green Mile too, but expertly done. Expertly done.
It still gets to me. It's all beautiful. I've done like presentations on it, and the questions it raises, even like especially like Shawshank Redemption, like when you see like the attention to music and the theme of hope in that film. That's always the key idea in that film. I've applied that to my life because I've always thought there's always hope. Because I thought if there is no hope for the future, then there is no future. So the idea of hope always keeps me going, especially even in my worst times. And like when I was in the hospital and I had nothing but that book, I kept thinking of the idea of hope. And for some reason, it all just links back to that movie. And that's why I hate to say it. I don't hate to say it. I actually love to say it. It'll always be my number 1 favorite film of all time. But we all kind of have that spark in our life where we see something or we notice something or we do something and we think that was our calling. This is what we want to do for our lives. I felt like when I watched that film, I literally watched it back to back twice because I loved it that much on the same day. Like as soon as it ended, I restarted it. I didn't even take out the DVD out of the player. I was just like, I'm watching this again. That's what made me say, when I saw something as complex as this and as brilliant as it was and as much as it shook me, I was like, that is the type of message I want to leave, albeit with my own style, of course. Again, like, you know, if you have that moment, or if you have that moment of spark, or you have that like notice, you have that moment of like you notice something is basically calling out to you, chances are it probably is, and I highly suggest you don't let it go. I think the problem is that we don't have enough dreamers. I think we've been told too much to basically be quiet and work and put away our feelings and put away our thoughts, put away our ideas, just be smart enough to do the job and don't do anything else. But what I think we need is, I think, like especially people like you with what you're doing with the schools, with the education, and we're talking about accommodations, and we're talking about like just reforming the way people think, the divergency of our students. Like how there are different students think. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. I mean, I think we need more of that and less conformity.
I agree. There's too much.
I know I went on.
No. This was great. There's too much greatness in everybody, right? To conform. And sometimes conforming is easy. Sometimes taking a step back is easy. Sometimes being quiet is easy, unless it's just, you know, how you want to live your life.
Oh, don't I know it?
If that's the case, it's going to make you feel comfortable. But like you said, if there is something that's calling out to you, I believe very rarely in coincidences. I think that the world is always trying to talk to us and lead us and guide us. And so, yeah, there's always greatness in folks, and all of us are too great to conform.
Exactly, and if like that idea is like gnawing in the back of your mind, or like what you said about that book, if something is gnawing in the back of your mind, what I've learned is life is going to beat you down until you surrender. So you might as well start doing what it is, because clearly it's going to bother you so much to the point where you have to do it. It's calling you, it's begging you, you were clearly the one it was meant for. You were the one that was worthy, and it's something Les Brown said too. It always stuck with me. If not you, who else? If not now, when?
That's right.
If not now, when? If not you, who?
And the interesting thing about greatness is that oftentimes it comes out. It needs to come from you, but it is really for someone else. Whether it's one person or whether it's 1,000 or 1,000,000 people, right? Your gift is uniquely yours, but it's really going to help unlock the gift in someone else. So it just keeps, like, it has how Les Brown kind of unlocked something for you. Once you release your films, like, it's going to unlock something for someone else.
He told me he hopes I make that biopic.
Yeah, see, so it's just going to be this ripple effect, and if you don't do your part right, who knows how you're kind of maybe preventing someone else to kind of do their part and then help the next person and help the next person.
Whole chain.
Exactly. So you got to do your part. Open the chain. Keep the chain going.
Anyways, I appreciate you being a guest with me, and thank you very much, everybody, for joining the Heidrich Motivational Hour. You're listening to WRKE 100.3 LPFM, Salem, streaming live online at WRKE.com, and on the TuneIn app, just search for WRKE.